So, Michael, another thing that comes up quite often is folks come into our program and we step them through the beginning phases of our transaction where we enter into a contingent contract.
Right.
And during that contingency phase, we're doing sketching and pricing and educating on finishes and what the site work is going to be and all that. And we because we have a no pressure sales policy at our organization, we are in this contingency phase. And a lot of folks will ask us, hey, John and Michael, how do we remove our contingency? We're ready to move forward. What do we need to do to remove the contingency?
Great. So, John, just as an FYI, and the customer gets a lot of information. So, during the contingency phase, they do get next steps that says, what do you need to do? But we also know they're getting other emails and whatever. So, we sometimes have to send out the next steps email for removing contingency multiple times. But what are they in a nutshell? One is emailing us, literally 2 words, remove contingency. Right? So that's easy.
And that is where we consider the home sold. So when you remove
it's sold, but that takes the home from sold to the pre-construction phase.
Exactly.
Okay, so it goes from sales with the words remove contingency. They are officially in pre-construction.
Yes, and we start doing the work. Yes. Okay.
Right. So they email remove contingency. They make payments either by check to complete their small initial deposit, or we have a portal where most people just pay one line. I get their approval to start preparing the grading plan. We tell the customers when to expect to receive the building plan. And our back office experts will send the customer a schedule of all the pre-construction phases that we're managing with a reference guide, so they don't have to take copious notes. And we schedule a call and we will review all the information with them. And that back office expert is responsible to communicate the timeline with the customer. Hey, are we ahead of schedule? Where are we with the timeline? But the customer can be assured that we're managing the timeline. They don't have to think about it, but we want them to feel confident that when they're in the startup phase, that we have a series of steps, that we're managing the steps, that we're well disciplined. And that's pretty much it. I mean, it's pretty easy.
So from a contingency removal standpoint, so before a buyer emails us and says remove contingency, we are not taking any actions to start the home. We are not in the startup phase.
Absolutely, John. And the reason is when a customer signs a contingent contract, they make a very small deposit, as you know, and we tell them your money is not at risk. So we would never spend any of their deposit unless they authorized it. Right. So if for some reason they decided not to move forward, we just refund their small deposit.
Exactly.
If for some reason we do a soils test or whatever, we won't do it without them giving us
Makes
approval.
Perfect sense. So now some folks are in kind of a middle ground. Some folks are buying a lot, and they say, hey, John, we want to remove our contingency, but we don't want to be on the hook for owing you the money for the whole house. What if we don't go to settlement on the lot? So I think that's a situation that comes up actually quite frequently. So what do you say to those buyers? What can we do for them?
So great point. So most of those buyers, whether it's because they want to get some kind of ARB, Architectural Review Board approval early, or they just want to make time work for them, right? So they're not paying any carry costs on this lot. So if their settlement on the lot is 60 days from now, and they can progress the startup phase, this pre-construction phase, and get a 60-day head start, they're paying less carry. Right. So what we do, remember we were talking about the startup schedule.
Absolutely.
We lay in the out-of-pocket cost for those customers. So they can look at the timeline and say, okay, my out-of-pocket cost to prepare the grading plan is X. My out-of-pocket cost, that's already included in the sales price, so it's just out-of-pocket. To prepare the permit set is this. So they will have, it's full transparency into what they want to spend. In fact, 2 days ago, we had a customer out in Loudoun County, bought a property and is doing this exact same thing. We gave her the cost and she emailed me back, remove contingency with not to pay any more than, I think it was maybe $8,500 in startup fees based on the schedule that we gave them, and that's where we're going.
So we call that a limited contingency removal, right?
Absolutely.
And then, so what we do is we lay out the potential exposure for a buyer.
Absolutely.
So if a buyer's going to settlement in 30 days,
Right.
and God forbid something happens and they don't go to settlement on the lot,
Right.
we can lay out exactly how much they will owe us if they walk away from the transaction.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
So I think a lot of folks really enjoy that about our program. So we can help them as they're buying a lot, get the building process started. So instead of waiting 4 or 5 months after they go to settlement before we start construction, maybe they go to settlement on their lot and we're starting construction 3 months or 4 months after.
Right. Or 2 months. I mean,
exactly.
Right. It really depends on when they go to settlement.
So we're getting the startup phase underway while the previous owner of the lot is paying the carry cost.
Exactly.
So
it's a beautiful situation.
It is. It is. So that's a little bit about contingency removal. Is there anything else we should add to this discussion about contingency removal?
I would just say we encourage our customers to follow our checklist of steps that we manage.
Right.
So they don't remove their contingency earlier than we would want them to do. Right. So we want to make sure if there's anything hidden, whether it's in a title or in the soils, whatever it is, we want to make sure we uncover it before they remove their contingency.
Right. So our mantra is we are working through the sales phase and that contingent contract phase.
Right.
So we avoid unpleasant surprises during construction. So it's all about transparency and exposure. We give our opportunity to the buyers to walk away from the transaction for any reason or no reason during that contingent contract phase. And once you remove your contingency, that's when we start the startup phase.
John, you and I, and we've talked about this in some other segments, sometimes the best investment or money a customer can spend is a couple $1,000s up front to not move forward with the lot because the unanticipated cost that we're anticipating, right? But the potential unanticipated builder cost that they don't know is coming down the road of $50,000 or whatever it is, that money they spend up front will be the best investment they ever have.
And we're going to coach them all the way through.
All the way through.
Yeah. So there's a little bit on contingency removal. So the bottom line is you, the buyer, will remove your contingency by sending us an email that says remove contingency as soon as you're comfortable with all the information that you have and you're ready to enter into the startup phase to actually begin the process of building your home. So I'm John Jorgenson. I'm here today with Michael Schnitzer, president of Stanley Martin Custom Homes. We're coming to you from our design studio in lovely downtown Chantilly, Virginia. Thanks for joining in.